So finally, both these cars are pretty much ready now to go on the road together. After the last detailing session you see on here, we've got some beading going on. I've been waiting my whole life just to get this picture right there. So I'm going to just do a quick cold start. These cars ain't been started up all day. So I'm going to do a quick cold start. Tell me what exhaust note you like the best. So I'll start one after the other, let them warm up quickly. So what exhaust note do you prefer? I mean, they're not that dissimilar from each other, really. Both running that V-Power goodness. So I just jacked the car up in the air at the rear, just making sure, just checking over everything, making sure everything's tight. And I thought it's about time I replaced this brake line. So I pulled it off. Most of this brake line's hidden as well, so you can't really see it. So I started to sand a few bits down because it's got some corrosion on it. And I didn't want to break it while I was taking it off because I want to copy the shape to replace it with. But this little bit was hidden way behind the bracket. So I was sanding a bit off. And you can see straight away it started leaking. So it's just about time that this thing, because it sits up against the chassis legs, well, against the floor, it gets all the salt and that, and the water and that doesn't run off it. So if you go and look at yours right now, I recommend you having a check over this rear one that goes over the beam. I'll show you where it goes. And get a new one. If you can't do it yourself, get someone to build it for you, take it to a garage. But you can see there how thin it's got as soon as you start taking the powder coat and the rust off it. And that's all that was allowing the fluid to stay in the pipe. So yeah, very lucky that I checked all that lot over. I'll make sure before I'm going to take the car out after a while. Obviously over the winter it's just corroded a little bit. So we're going to replace that now. We're going to make a new one up. So this line should be very difficult to make. It's only a few bends. You can see some little 45s and a couple of 90s. So not too bad. So what I'm doing is I'm just straightening out some line. I'm going to start from this end and attach a fitting onto here first. And then we can see it's just like a 30 degree there. 30 degree up here. So it's not difficult to make at all. You can almost make this section almost straight and just bend it with your fingers. It's not until you get up to this section that you're going to get any sort of bends, but you can see it won't take long to make this one. You can see on this end here, when I was talking about in other episodes, it's a double flare. So you flare it and then you use the tool then to push in that end, and I'll show you how to do that. So basically what's happening is there, you're joining the brake line straight to the end like that. So you're going to create a flare like that on one end, which is already on the car, and then that flare, that section there, which is on the car, then bolts into that and seals it. You can see it's perfect shape for it. So I flared this end off. If you ain't seen how I flare the ends, just check previous videos, I've got it all in them. So after lots of bending and trimming and twisting, we've got the pretty much the shape that we need now of the brake line. I've just left this end extra long at the minute because I just want to make sure that the flare is perfect with a bend so we're not tight. This section here that I bent up wasn't really needed that much because I'm going to be cutting that out in the future, but I thought I'd just do it to the same spec as the original. Right, so that's a double flare, and you can see that the normal flare sits inside that, so you can join two pipes together with these joiners. And then what it does, it allows you to join two fittings together like this. So you can join a normal flare on this side, a double flare on that side, and then the pipes can join together with the fittings. So here's a comparison between the two new brake lines. The old crusty one had better days, so we've got rid of this nasty join here now that was about to go. Luckily it hadn't gone yet, so we're going to get this fitted. So I just fitted it, fits absolutely perfect. Really happy with how that's come out. Went straight on, everything clips to it, goes up in the brackets. You can see clips all up there. You see the double flare system. You can see what I'm talking about here with the double flare. So you've got a joiner going onto that, and then it joins up goes behind here. So if you have an Astra, go and check this brake line. It's the section that goes behind here you don't even see. It rubs up obviously against this bit of metal and it rots away. So you don't want that blowing out, even if it passes an MOT. All this is just surface rust, so there's no problem there. Just got to clip that section back up there. You can see it's all joined up there now, job done. So I'm going to start removing these unnecessary bits that we don't need now, like these brackets and the earth bracket there, and the one for the alarm system. That can all go now. So I'm going to start drilling out the spot welds. You see there's like 5 or 6 there. You know, there's only 1 or 2 there, so it shouldn't be too difficult. And then we can smooth all this wing, weld up all these holes that are not needed anymore, and sand it down. So I think the most important thing is when you're drilling out these spot welds is you've got to get the punch to the centre of the spot weld to start with. If you don't do that, then the drilling is going to get you nowhere, because you're going to end up drilling off to the side and you're not going to drill out the spot weld. So make sure you get that punch as central as possible. Just do it by eye, or you can measure it if it calls for it, and just give it 1 whack. Or you can get the punches now that you just push down and they'll punch a hole in it, but I just prefer doing the old school way. So you can see what I do is I drill pilot holes with smaller drill bits, and then I open it up with the spot weld drill bit, and that drills it nice and flush. That way it doesn't drill a hole through the turret that you've got to weld up. This is the last of the brackets. It'd be nice when I can get rid of these brackets here for the water tank, but for now, that's the last bracket off. Nice job. Not all torn up and everything. That's the importance of getting the centre punch. So it's time to get rid of this trumpet for this washer bottle as well now. So I'm just going to mark this round here as tight as I can, so I can make a plate up round there that acts as a cap. Basically what that does, but it's just going to sit round here nice and flush instead. So just to undo it, just be able to unscrew a couple of screws, because they don't need topping up very often. So I've just pulled the washer bottle back out. Before I did, I marked as tight as I could to the inner panel, so I can cut it as flush as I can get it. I'm going to mount it back up once it's cut off and see if it needs any more taking off. Then I'm going to put some trim around here, and then when the plate I'm making up sits flush against it and that sit nice and tight, end up like a cap, so the water can't slosh around and come out of it. Right, so that's how it's going to sit. So it's pretty much flush. I'm going to put some trim around it, so it's going to act as a seal for the plate. So this is the trim that I'm just going to be fitting around here, and it's just going to act like a seal. It's got like a metal insert in it, so when you push it down, it grips on there nice and tight, absolutely perfect. You can trim it nice and tight. Might have to take a little bit more off this, so I'm going to put it on and then check the clearances, because it might sit a little bit proud now, because this is, I don't know, 3 or 4 mil thick. So I had to trim it down a little bit more to get a perfect fit. This is what I'm talking about. So when I sandwich a plate over the top of that, it's all bolted in now. It will act as like a seal, almost like a cap, probably better than the original cap that's on there. Right, so I just made up a paper template. So I'm going to just transfer this over to aluminium panel now, and then I can shape it up a little bit better, trim it, whatever's needed, and drill 2 holes just for screws, just so it holds it down nice and tight. So I just cut it out with some 0.5mm alley, so that weighs absolutely nothing. And you see here, I've just shaped it up a little bit, and then I'm going to just screw it in the top, screw it in the bottom, and it just sandwiches nicely down on that. I can feel it pressing against that seal. Perfect. So now I've just screwed it down with 2 really low profile screws, and it won't look out of place once it's all painted up. Obviously it's shiny aluminium at the minute, so you can see a lot clearer, but it just smooths that side of the bulkhead out, acts as a cap, does 2 jobs at once. So if I ever need to fill it up, I just undo them 2 quickly, fill it up. And to be honest, I don't even need to fill them up once every couple of months, so it's no problem. So something I ain't done yet is bleed these brakes. So I'm going to start on the rear. Always start on the rears when you're bleeding brakes. I don't use a pressure bleed, I always just use someone else in the car. So I'm going to get under here now, do the rears, and then jack the fronts up, do the fronts separately, because they've got Brembos on the front, so they've got 2 nipples per caliper. So always overfill your fluid reservoir when you're doing these brakes, especially if you've drained the fluid completely. You're going to be going through quite a bit of fluid in them lines. You know what fluid I'm using by now, so just get loads of fluid in there so you don't run out halfway through. There's nothing worse than sucking air after you've bled the brakes. So a little tip for you, I don't get on with pressure bleeding brakes, never have done. So I don't don't mind the suction cylinders that you can get and you attach them to the air compressors. They do a good job. I haven't got one of them and most of you won't. So this is a little tip. Get yourself some hosing that go over the brake nipple and then attach it to a bottle, and that way you don't get all the fluid everywhere, and you can see what fluid, what colour it is, if it's dirty, if it's filthy. So before you crack the nipple off, just pop that over the top of it, and then you can bleed into the bottle and collect the fluid. So this is what I mean. So you just put that hose over the nipple, make sure you put your spanner on first, and then you can just drain the fluid into that. Makes a lot less messy instead of getting all over your arms, over the wheels, and you can see what colour your fluid is, see if it's nasty. I think this one's going to come out blue because there'll be blue fluid still in the lines. So when it comes to bleeding these fronts, obviously you've got two nipples for two chambers because you've got two pistons there, so you need to get the air out of both sides. So just keep going backwards and forwards, making sure you've got no air at all. Just even if you go over it a little bit further, because sometimes you get a little bubble of air come out, that can make all the difference in brake fade. And a bit of air in the system, and the brakes are just not going to be working 100%. There you go, so you can see the blue fluid collecting at the bottom of the bottle, and you can see what I mean now about the colour of the fluid. Before it was like a dark blue colour, and you could see it a lot clearer. Now when it's clear, you can't see it at all, so it's harder to see leaks. I imagine that's what they've done this for in motorsport, so you could see leaks a lot easier. Right, so the brakes are all fully bled now. As I said to you in previous episodes, these are going to be taken off and painted, but there's more important things at the minute. Just going to pull these pads out and give them a grease up, give the pins a clean up and everything, just make sure everything's free on both sides. So you've got to love being able to service the brakes like this, just taking a set of brake pads out. You can run a set of road pads for the road and then change them straight over on the track. So I just went over the pads, make sure they weren't cracked or nothing, and then I just deglazed them. Going to copper grease these pins and everything up. Going to order some new pads soon, a harder compound at the minute, because these ones, when they get really hot, they fade. Just going to copper grease everything up, go over the whole brake setup and put it all back together. Over the pads, once I've deglazed them, I just file off the edge, two corners, and that just stops any squealing. So I need to stop working on this one for a little bit because I've got to get this one ready. This one goes for mapping on Friday, so we need to do an oil change on this quickly. There's a couple of bits that I need to do. I need to make a bracket up for this breather system to go on the strut brace, just to make sure it's got a quite a long drive before it gets there, and this thing never fails to start. It's been ultra reliable since we built it. Got a nice genuine Z20let oil filter with the extra oil filter capacities. You can fit these to the CVHs, they fit a direct fit. Yeah, so you can see the difference here between the stock filter, about half the size, and this one doubles up as a coffee mug, as you can see. But yeah, so we're going to change that over to a Z20let one. And the oil we're going to change over is to a 1060 oil. So the oil we're going to be using with this new oil change is this one. It's a Mobile Motorsport fully synthetic 1060. We was using a 1040 previously because it had hydraulic lifters in it. And then when we changed from hydraulics to solids, we still stuck with the 1040, but we're going to 1060 now because on a high heat in the summer on track, we're going to run an oil cooler, but we want a thicker oil just to make sure it's got good oil pressure at high revs and high heat. So I wouldn't recommend this oil on any engines with hydraulic lifters, especially 16 valve. It's way too thick, but we will be warming the cars up before we use them. That golden goodness. So it's always a good day when you get car parts turn up, and as I said to you in previous video, we've got a sabelt steering wheel coming for the car, and this is it. So you can see it's Alcantara or suede or whatever they make them out of these days. This is absolutely beautiful, this steering wheel. I've wanted it for a long time, and it weighs absolutely nothing. So it's going to get rid of that big clumsy RS4 spoke now. I know a lot of people have asked about buying that, but it just hangs up on the wall with the memorabilia. Don't really sell much. So we've got the you know, Sabelt are the same people that make the harnesses. I just love Sabelt's quality. They're an Italian make. You can see like it's a proper genuine one, all with a horn push and everything. The only issue is with these is this wears really quickly when you in the summer when you sweat and the oils come off of your hands. These start to bobble, and that's a bit anal. But you have to wear gloves with these, otherwise they will wear very quickly, and then you'll get like a ball patch around the outside. So that's something to bear in mind. So let's get to fitting this. So obviously we can't use the RS 4-spoke steering wheel Boss. So I've just fitted on the new Boss kit. So you can see we're about to mount that steering wheel straight to it now. Still use the horn push down there as well. Oh yeah, so let's get this steering wheel bolted on. It's going to look great against the flock dash. And obviously the carbon surround and everything. Right, let's get this beautiful steering wheel bolted on. So it goes so well with the flock dash. I'm going to get some titanium nuts for this, just for a little bit of fanciness. You know, like the coloured burnt titanium. I've seen it on a couple of cars, they look really good. If I don't like it, I can always chuck them in the bin. So I've also just bought a better mic as well, so that whenever I get exhaust note of the cars, you'll probably notice that it gets quite, the mic I've got at the minute just can't handle it. So this new mic, I was doing some research on it and it can handle it. It's also got a wind cover as well on it, so not going to have no wind noise. And that way when I do some videos of the exhaust note, you're going to get a much clearer image, because the amount of times I'll be take videos of the exhaust note and then I play it back and I'm like, it sounded so much better than that in real life. So you should get a better representation now. Well, how about that then? How do you think that looks? I think the dash, the flock dash and the steering wheel go amazing now with the seat. So the next vlog that you'll be seeing on this car will be mapping day. So we're going to be mapping it 2 days from now. Going to get some boost in this engine, changing over the injectors, some bigger injectors so we can put 2 bar or 2+ bar into the engine. I love a bit of boost, more boost the better. I'm not one for being shy of putting some boost in the engine. So the interior's coming on well. A lot of people really like the beige filler primer colour, but we're going to get some fresh white paint in there. That's going to look much better. So join me on the next episode.